Hello, my name is Pej. I'm an interventionist. I help a lot of people with addiction, alcoholism, and mental health. Today we're going to talk about why would somebody even do methamphetamine. I get a lot of different phone calls from various people from all different walks of life that tell me that they or they have a loved one that is suffering with methamphetamine addiction, with meth addiction, and they don't know what to do, not with themselves or with their loved one. And I often will hear different variations of lifestyles of people that get into this stuff. Some of them are nurses, some of them are doctors, some of them are people that have been homeless for a while, some of them come from well-to-do families, some of them come from very poverty-stricken homes. I believe everybody kind of has their own addiction depending on what kind of substance that they enjoy. There are some people that like to go slow, and there's some people that like to go fast. When it comes to meth addiction, a lot of people use it for many different reasons. There are people that get into meth addiction to solely lose weight. A lot of women will use meth because they know that they can totally shed pounds by using this particular drug. There's some people that do it for drug-driven sex. There are some people that do it to be more productive in the workplace. They think that it helps them be more productive, and really they might produce really high depending on what kind of a job that they have. But also the crash is super hard, and so it could definitely ruin job opportunities, or certain types of experiences that they have in the workplace could lead them to actually losing their job. Again, when I say that there's some people that will use drugs that will slow them down, such as opiates, heroin, fentanyl, things like that, as opposed to people that do meth, a lot of people that are doing meth, there could be psychological reasons to why they're doing it, most definitely. That's usually what the case is. But also they have motives for the reason that they use meth. Sometimes opiates don't work well for people. They may not like the feel of it. It might slow them down to the point where they don't see it as something that they can actually go into everyday life doing, because it will be time consuming, or it might take away from their life. People that get into a lot of meth, it might be their demographic, might be the type of people that they're hanging out with. Some people are highly influenced by the certain people that are using it around them. It's very big in the club scene. It's very big in the LGBTQ scene. It is very big in the biker scene. There's a lot of people that work driving jobs, a lot of them that will do, that are hauling things, that are behind the wheel for long hours, maybe in a fleet or certain type of semi-trucks that will do it a lot. There's a lot of people that are tow truck drivers, and then there's people that are actually working in the medical field. There's nurses that will use it because they work long hours, so they become dependent upon it, and sometimes even doctors. Methamphetamine comes in so many different forms. There's some people that will snort it, some people that will smoke it, there's some people that will eat it. It works differently for different people. There are some people that it actually they get convinced that they can perform well on it, and maybe in the beginning they actually can, but over a period of time meth becomes demonic. It will work against you. It can make a person act very evil. It makes you sleep deprived. It can make you malnourished. You can be up for days and days and days. It can make you paranoid. It can put a person in full-blown psychosis, in full flight from reality, where they don't know, they can't differentiate the true from the false, as we say in the recovery community a lot. So when one gets into that phase, it's very hard for them to actually get real with themselves, and then sometimes it's hard for their loved one to be able to get through to them, because they may become combative, argumentative, have issues with anybody that's trying to approach them. They may be in a full-on paranoid state and think that the person that's trying to talk to them might be in on it, because they already feel like they're being watched. There's a lot of paranoia that comes with it, a lot of secretive lifestyles that certain people have already, many different skeletons in their closets. So when they do meth and they seclude themselves, or they're isolating a lot, when they're doing meth, it becomes like their own little so-called safety bubble of, I'm just going to use this stuff, nobody needs to know about me, nobody needs to worry me. And sometimes people that try to help them become a threat to their addiction, to their disease of addiction, to their active using, because that person might be getting in the way of that particular person's lifestyle, or might be a threat to the way that they're living their life. I say a lot of this stuff from experience because I myself I'm a former meth user. I first was turned on to it when I was super young. I remember I was 16. We were already doing cocaine. Somebody had us try some meth, and at that young age, I was more into the cocaine. But when I got into meth, it was kind of scary at first. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. But I remember I tried it once. I didn't want to do it anymore. And by the time I was 18 years old, because I did a bunch of steroids and I was kind of gaining weight between cycles, I noticed that there were certain people that were losing lots of weight, getting super thin, skinny, whether they were women, men. And so I started to experiment with meth, and then it just became like a full-blown addiction. And over a period of time, it became my everyday usage. Like nothing, it trumped everything else that I was using. The weed was hardly working anymore. It definitely went hand in hand with alcohol. I could drink better on it and not get totally hammered because the meth kind of overpowered that, but I could also enjoy myself, so I thought, with alcohol and meth mixed. But after a while, it just became my everything. And then I stopped when I was 20 some odd years old. I think like 22 years old. I stopped because I realized like I didn't want to be addicted to this particular drug anymore. And then I started again in my mid-20s. And the reason that I started again is because I didn't know about recovery. I had no idea how, like, between the time of being 22 and I think like 26 and getting back into meth again, I was still using all kinds of other substances. Therefore, I was substituting one drug for another, and I didn't know what real sobriety consisted of. By the time I was 35, the meth addiction had been ongoing for at least a good 9 years from there. And so, meth had been a part of my drug using career for a long time. It was also the thing that brought me to my knees. It was the devil's dandruff, as some of us would refer to it as, and it ruined my life. I mean, we're talking about jails, institutions, police raids, homelessness. All of this stuff was a result of extensive meth usage for me, and none of it was getting me sober. I could hit so many bottoms, but every bottom has a trap door, because every time I would get well or somebody would save me or rescue me, I was right back to doing it again. Therefore, I needed real recovery, and by the time I was 35 years old, I got put into a position where it was do or die for me. I needed to get help physically. I was starting to have a lot of heart and palpitating murmurs. This is in my mid-30s. Like, this is what was happening. I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. And so by the time I did reach out for help, I was able to get into a community around a lot of other recovering addicts and alcoholics, and many that were recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And they showed me the ropes. They showed me how one can overcome meth use, not have temptations, not have urges, be able to be productive in everyday society, not rely on meth to be able to have a lot of energy, and then to go out and help other people that are suffering or have been suffering. And that is why I do what I do. I make these videos because I want to not just educate people, but I want people to know that if I ever have somebody that is suffering from addiction of any sort, I've done so many different types of drugs. I have major experience with this stuff, but then I became a professional and I studied. I studied really hard drug and alcohol studies to be able to learn about all of the different various substances that I used, and meth was always of great interest to me. So it is my specialty to talk to people that either have a loved one suffering with meth addiction, or they themselves are suffering with meth addiction, and show them how to get out of being near the gates of hell. That's where meth truly brings us, to hell on earth, and to be able to change and transform our lives, get completely sober, what it takes to get sober, and then what it takes to stay sober. So if you or somebody that you know is ever suffering with meth addiction, by all means, you can call me. My name is Pej. It's 310-596-9356 or 949-751-7761. I myself will take your calls or your texts, and we can talk, we can have a conversation and see how to try to help you.